good morning, and welcome everybody to a special full episode of God Have Heart Wrestling by me, Jamal Holness. And today, since it's Thursday, I was going to do my podcast yesterday, of course, Wednesday. Yesterday was so special because it was the birthday of one phenom, The Undertaker. And it's so surreal. His birthday comes around, and, it's just like every year he gets older and older. Yesterday, he did turn 56 years old. And it's just really amazing. It really is. You gotta admit, like, everything Undertaker's done in his 30-year career has been top notch, on point. Everything that you can think of when you hear the words WWE superstar and then The Undertaker, it goes in the same sentence. It's all in one. It's just simply amazing. And this episode, I want to dedicate this to Mark Calloway, his real name, The Undertaker, the Mystique, the gimmick, the character, the Deadman, the Phenom, the Lord of Darkness himself, and we're going to talk about his specialty matches. No matter what era, what year, what time it happened, his specialty matches. And you got to admit, in all of the Undertaker's 30-year career, he's competed in several, maybe two dozens, more several specialty matches in his entire career. Hell, he even introduced us to Hell in a Cell and Buried Alive. That's two matches right there. Even that dreaded casket match, too, which has a lot of history. I get all my three. I love all of them equally, but I think the cast match is one of my favorites between the Undertaker because that was his own. It was the cast match I never heard of until the Undertaker came to WWE. Of course, Hell in a Cell consisted of both Shawn and Undertaker. That's for everybody, but for the casting match and Bray Wyatt matches goes, like those were the Undertaker's. That came out of the Undertaker's own mindset, and over the past number of years, we've seen Undertaker utilize those strategies, those specialties to a T. And within any of it, it's been really surreal. But there's also like other matches, like hardcore matches, last man standing matches. Of course, you got the classic steel cage, elimination chambers. Even Undertaker once competed in the first ever Punjab prison match that was orchestrated by the Great Khali back in 2006 at the Great American Bash. So no matter what type of match it is, or even the dreaded Inferno match as well. So it's just really, it's really amazing. It really is. All right, and even if you guys didn't notice, The Undertaker also competed as not as many, but he used to be in his, I guess his first gimmick match would be a body bag match, and it's just really amazing. It's kind of scary at first, but a body match did happen against the Ultimate Warrior in 1991 on July 1st in MSG. So it's pretty surreal how, I didn't even do this, but until I looked it up and like, oh wow, this is really a body bag match between Anti-Ultimate Warrior and, I'm taking one, of course, but I was like, wow. It's just those rare matches that you don't really see on TV, but it happened in real life, and you're like, oh my God, why did this happen on TV? Why can't we watch it during that time period? It's really amazing, really is. So, first off, I want to talk about the first match that Undertaker introduced to us on TV was the dreaded casket match. But the very first one that the Undertaker had was called a coffin match. It was against the Ugandan Giant Kamala at the 1992 Survivor Series. And how special was this match? Because it had a build off from when they first faced off at SummerSlam. You saw Kamala coming out there, the Undertaker's grand entrance with the hearse and the casket inside of it. Technically that wasn't a casting match at this at 1992 SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium in front of some 90,000 fans. Like it was really amazing. And Undertaker did win that matchup. So I guess WWE was like, okay, we'll do one more type of match between Undertaker and Kamala. It's such a great rivalry. They have good chemistry. You can see, Kamala's not really feared of many things, but apparently at this time he was very fearful of the Undertaker, and of course he wouldn't be. The Undertaker walking out with the black hat, black trench coat, purple gray tie, the boots, the purple gray gloves, and just that makeup, that mystique that makes him look like he really is a dead man. Of course, to find out if you really are a dead man, I guess an appropriate way to, have to feel the reality of being a dead man, and which hence the casket match or the coffin match that we called it. And, at the not too Survivor Series, it's pretty special. The Undertaker's third Survivor Series, and Mind you, Undertaker debuted 2 years prior to this WrestleMania 1990 as Ted DiBiase's $1 million partner of the $1 million team. Mystery partner, I mind you. And then the year before, Nathaniel Sarasi, he ended Hulk Hogan's never championship reign when he defeated him thanks to the real world champ at the time, Ric Flair from WCW, had come in and helped Undertaker win the championship for the first time. Even though Undertaker didn't hold it for that long, he would lose a week later at Tuesday in Texas via controversy, you know. But, it's coffin match. We started Undertaker, laid right, left hands to Kamala, body slam him, and then this was very weird. If you guys didn't notice, this coffin match, not only you have to pitch your opponent inside the coffin to win the match. No, that's not how it went in 1992. First, Undertaker got the 1, 2, 3. You have to pin your opponent first, and then proceed to roll your opponent. I guess in this case, when taking Kamala, rolling Kamala into the casket and slam the lid. And this is pretty surreal. I think they didn't have locks at the time here, but from what I've watched, going back and looking at this matchup here, you had Undertaker just nailing the coffin shut, so that way there was no way in hell that Kamala can get out of it. That is pretty surreal. It's one thing to close the casket and lock it, but you having the nail shut and you're just literally just trapped inside there. That is pretty surreal. That really is. I don't think we've seen Kamala right after that. I think he was gone for several years after that match. Like, wow. If you're gonna put somebody away, that's actually the perfect way to pit him. To always take him out of the WWE for a long while. So yeah, it's pretty surreal. And I guess every casting match I follow, because the Undertaker will have the next one at the end of 74 Rumble against Yokozuna. And this is probably one of the most infamous casting matches of them all, because it took Yokozuna about 11, 12 superstars to help the Undertaker beat him. And this is especially after that 74 Rumble right here in Providence, Rhode Island, where I'm from. Well, where I reside as of right now. And it's just pretty surreal. Undertaker lost that match. Yokozuna retained the WWE Championship in that matchup. But the scary part of that match was what came after. You saw this wicked green fog, the smoke, whatever, coming out the urn that was knocked out of hands of Paul Bearer. And then, as the superstars and Yokozuna was moving that casket up the ramp to the backstage, you hear this gong, and out of nowhere, it gets dark. There's green smoke coming out the casket. You have the Undertaker appearing on that square Titantron and saying he will not rest in peace, meaning he'll be back. And his body, or I guess that was his body, or some kind of dummy just being flown up in midair. Like that was no scary situation. That was I mean say that was a scary situation. And at the time it was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's so surreal. Like, oh my God, Dungeon going away for good. He's coming back. Like, you know. And I guess like there were also other casting matches. I can name about maybe, three of them that come to my mind. The Undertaker Shawn Michaels won for the Undertaker won for the WWE Championship. You've had um The Undertaker and John Heidenreich from the Talent 5 Roman match. And tell me a question. This is kind of weird. You've had it was even Undertaker Shop Girl casting match on SmackDown at one point in 2007 or 2008, mind you. But like, it's pretty surreal how all these matches came about, and then just put into play. Undertaker, of course, won most of these casting matches. Thank God, because if we would have lost more casting matches than he won, that would probably been a severe problem. It's kind of weird though, because not all casting matches like will turn out to be as what they seem to be. Especially for The Undertaker fighting his brother King. These two had a casket match in October. I think it was the night after Judgment Day, 1998, the first ever Judgment Day, inaugural one. And Undertaker and King did end up tearing the casket apart while both being locked inside of it, and there was no winner. Of course, it kind of sucked. But then at the same time, you have The Undertaker vs. The Rock in 1999. This is pretty brutal here. Not what happened to The Undertaker. So The Undertaker won this casket match. He would put The Rock inside the casket. And then Triple H, who was also part of the corporate ministry at the time working with The Undertaker, would proceed to smash the casket, which is not one of the double Y, double D caskets, which is a regular casket that you will see in the morgue or funeral home. But Triple H smashed that casket, putting a hole in it with a sledgehammer, and The Rock did not come out there looking pretty. He did not. But yeah, speaking of casket matches, I would say definitely the Undertaker Shawn Michaels one is the most famous. Or if you guys already know about the history with Shawn Michaels winning and Kane burning the casket up the ramp. That's not the only time he got trapped in a casket and was set on fire. Let's go back to No Mercy Silent 5, where The Undertaker battled Randy Orton and Cowboy Bob Orton in a handicap casket match. The only handicap casket match ever in WWE's history to this very day in Houston, Texas at the Toyota Center. So we get to No Mercy here, and it seemed like Undertaker was dominating this match from the beginning. Cowboy Bob Orton did pretty good in that match up here, played a good part, and it wasn't too bad. But at the same time, it's like you've had a two-on-one situation. Normally, it's not going to look pretty for Undertaker, because in this match, it's like he had to pit both of the Ortons inside the casket to win the match. So you have Undertaker against the Ortons here. Pretty good show. You got chairs, you got fire extinguishers in this match up here. So Undertaker was dominant for a while, but took that upper hand from Cowboy Orton and Randy Orton to put the Undertaker in the casket. Randy Orton had that last chair shot in there, and they finally close the casket. The Undertaker loses, and Randy and Cowboy Bob Orton wins. If you can imagine, you gotta feel good for Cowboy Warren. He could say he could be the cast match and won in his career. Yeah, not many legends could say that nowadays. Like, Cowboy Warren could say that he and his son Randy Orton defeated the Undertaker in a handicap castle match. You know, so yeah, as weird as that sounds, it actually did happen, folks. It really did. So yeah, Peter dragged the casket up the ramp, and I'm thinking, okay, we're just gonna take it as a little trophy, okay? Like this one, the Undertaker, he's in the casket, I win. This is where I thought they took too far. It's something you see in Attitude Era. It's Attitude Era that stays in the Attitude Era. Of course. Pretty much anything goes in the Attitude Era during that time period. But now we're like, in the Ruthless Aggression era, almost in the PG era, and it's like, when you're hitting the axe and then Cowboy Bob and bringing out that can of gasoline, and of course, Orton bangs out the casket with the axe, bend a hole in the middle of it, pours gasoline all over the casket and even that tiny hole where the Undertaker's inside and lights the matches and sets the casket on fire. That to me was like, wow, okay, this rivalry is getting serious. You saw them two battle at WrestleMania, SummerSlam, SmackDown, and now No Mercy. And oh man, I really thought for the fact that Undertaker was gonna be gone for a long time after this. But thank God he came back at Survivor Series Challenge 5 in Detroit and then went to Armageddon, which also Armageddon Town Fire took place here in Providence, Rhode Island, and Randy Undertaker will proceed to battle in a dangerous match that, and I think in my mind, it's one of my favorite matches to this very day. So we'll take a break right here, and when I come back, I'll explain to you what type of match it is, and we'll talk about the Undertaker's history in that match. Don't go anywhere. If you haven't heard about the Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. The Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it's easy to be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you very much. All right, welcome back to a special full episode of God I've Heart Wrestling featuring your truly Jamel Honus. And the reason I looked up was, the Undertaker radio match from Armageddon Town 5 in Providence, Rhode Island. The thing is, I want to introduce this next, concept of this special match that Undertaker was made famous in. And some people I think that he created to really, beat the crap out of his opponents. And that very infamous phrase, sending them straight to hell. That's right, I'm talking about the Hell in a Cell match. This one's important. You had Undertaker Randy Orton. It was now said this match will be tested inside the Hell in a Cell. This is how brutal it is. Normally, in any Hell in a Cell match you have the Undertaker, most of the time his opponent is busted open. There's been a couple of Hell in a Cell matches where Undertaker's spinning and where his opponent is not bleeding but battered. Most of the times his opponent is definitely battered and bloody and bruised. This would not be the same case. This would be the same case for Randy Orton at Armageddon 7-5. Like I said, Randy Orton's performance at Hell in a Cell against the Undertaker was pretty good. I watched the Untold series. I watched the Undertaker Randy Orton talk about this matchup, the Hell in a Cell match from Channel 5, and I gotta admit, when I watched it that time, I watched it on pay-per-view. I was a kid. I think I was about 12 years old. seeing this matchup in person, no, not in person, but on TV on pay-per-view, it's just really surreal that like take how much great lengths he was go to decimate his opponent. And this would be short Randy on here. I think there was a part of this matchup where you see in the middle of this match, they were outside, not outside the ring, but still inside the cell, ringside, and Undertaker just, oh, took a did a brutal chair shot to Randy Orton. And Randy Orton ended up bleeding profusely. I'm like, oh man, I I think there were. There was one time I saw Randy Orton busted open against there was the hardcore match against Cactus Jack at Backlash '04 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I never see Randy Orton busted open like that until that point at Armageddon Town 5. That was brutal. That's one of the brutal things I've ever seen Randy Orton busted open in. That is crazy. Take a last ride, a chair shot, a hit with the urn, and then a tombstone power driver. And take wins 1, 2, 3. And even his Randy's father still got involved in the matchup, but still paid no depth because he would get tombstone by the Undertaker as well. It's like you see Undertaker's climb top of the cell posing, and then while both the Ortons, specifically Randy Orton, was laid up in the ring, all bloody, battered, and bruised. This is pretty surreal, and the reason I say this, like, this has got to be definitely one of my favorite Hell matches between Undertaker and Randy Orton. This match I could literally watch over and over again. That's how good it was. You know, it really was. So, yeah. At the same time, I'm like, I appreciate that I saw this matchup because, like, for one, it was definitely a big time match for Randy Orton's career. I think he was like, well, still in the prime of his career. I think at that point it was almost 3 years into his career, but still, it was like, you know, it was pretty painful. Even I think he described it as one of the most brutal matches he's ever competed in. So yeah, but we're gonna talk about that. The Undertaker's history inside Hell in a Cell overall is unheard of. Yeah, it's really unheard of. He competed against guys like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Brock Lesnar, Batista, and Edge, and more. Who could I forget the first one? Undertaker debut inside Hell in a Cell against Shawn Michaels, Bad Blood '97. That event, I will not stress this much. I will stress that event, Bad Blood '07, I think is one of my favorite overall best pay-per-view events overall in WWE's history. The thing is, you saw, Nation Domination Battle LOD. You saw the Tag Team Championship between the Godwins and the Headbangers. You saw a crown even new crown champion, and once one was screwed by Stone Cold Steve Austin. You will see the tag team flag match between Bulldog and Brett versus Vader and the Patriot, and the debut in Hell in a Cell, a buddy battle of Shawn Michaels. And then wait till you see it after. What I talk about after. We'll talk about this match Hell in a Cell. Yeah, Shawn Michaels coming out here, of course, with Triple H, China, Rick Rude, D-Generation X. Cool. They're not going to be part of the side of the cell. They're going to be outside the cell. That the way they can't get in, and there's no way that Shawn and Undertaker can get out. Undertaker comes down here. You see Undertaker's entrance. The way he blows up the lights, first of all, I think scared the shit out of any fan that there. And probably any fans watching from the couch in the living room on TV on pay-per-view. But they could definitely scare the shit out of Shawn Michaels as he's looking around and trying to see those girls away outside the cell. I kid you not. I think Shawn Michaels would probably agree with me when I said this. He's had the worst ass kicking out of any ass kicks he's seen in his entire life. Go back to Bad Blood '97 on WWE Network or Peacock, mind you, and watch, that House of match. I think that was pretty. I think that was 95% dominance of the Undertaker and only 5% dominance by Michaels. That's how bad and bloody that House of match was. It was so surreal to the point where it cannot be, one of the below the top five or below the top three House of matches of all time. That's how good this match was. Pure brutality on the Undertaker's part. And they did manage to get inside the cell because there was an incident where Shawn Michaels had knocked out a cameraman and beat him up senseless that the referees had to call out more officials to open the cell to get to that unintended cameraman that got beat up by Michaels. And Undertaker and Shawn found their way inside the cell. You see this part with it. You see this part of the match where Undertaker picks up Shawn, proceeds to ram his head inside the cell. Well, not inside the cell, but outside the cell onto the side wall. And of course, yeah, Shawn Michaels trying to climb the cell, trying to escape the Undertaker. Undertaker goes up on top of him. Then you see This is probably a scary part of the matchup. You see the Undertaker picks up Shawn Michaels in midair and backdrops him onto the cell. And they go, oh shit, don't let this shit break through. Do not let this cell fall through. This is pretty surreal. And then you see Shawn Michaels get kicked in the face. He's about to look like he's falling off the cell. He's about to hang from the top on the side. And then Undertaker stops Michael's hand, and then you hear Jerry Long say, incoming, incoming. And Shawn Michaels just falls through the announce table. Oh man. When you hear the fall of Shawn through the announce table, it sounds like bricks just crashing down or a piece of wood like you just hear it again and again. It was like damn, yeah, Shawn is done for. And then of course Undertaker goes back there, drags Shawn Michaels, I guess picks him up and brings him back inside the cell, inside the ring. And of course one of the referees would put the law back on the cell, so they wouldn't go anywhere. Oh man. This next part. You hear probably one of the most resounding steel chair shots to the face ever. When Undertaker hit Shawn Michaels so damn hard with that steel chair, I think it pretty much dented that chair. And then Shawn Michaels is laying there in the pool with his own blood. You see the tombstone. Undertaker's calling for the tombstone. The lights go out. Then we see the debut of the most vicious, amazing, big man, monstrous character ever done in history, Kane. And I'm so proud to announce this. Like, let me take a break from here. I'm proud to announce that Kane, thanks to his so-called brother, character on TV, but his best friend in real life, The Undertaker, Mark Calloway, is going to be inducted to the 2021 Hall of Fame that's going to stream on Peacock and their network Tuesday, April 6th, and it's going to be amazing. I think King well deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. Way overdue, and I'm proud. I'm happy to be alive to watch King be inducted to the Hall of Fame. He damn well deserves it. Glenn Jacobs, mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, really amazing. A really big honor for Kane to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. But yeah, back to the match. You see Kane come out here and then just looks at his brother stairs and brother Undertaker in the eyes, picks up his hands, and then just have this fire coming out of all turnbuckles. And then he proceeds to pick up the Undertaker and then tombstones him. The Undertaker's own finish move. He's mastered that tombstone for the last 8 years prior to that matchup. But first time he gets tombstone. I mean, that's the first time actually. I think the fake Undertaker tombstone. The Undertaker for the first time at 1994 Survivor Series in a weird main event matchup. But yeah, like Cage just tombstones the Undertaker. Luckily, Shawn Michaels, I don't know where his whereabouts was that night. He knew the Undertaker was to get the arm on him, cover him 1, 2, 3, and subsequently, it's going to say in the record books that Shawn has defeated the Undertaker in the first ever Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood '97. Many fans will call that bullshit, but it actually happened. You know, thanks to King, mind you. Let me put that out there. Thanks to the debut of the Monster King. You know, wow. It's just like thinking about so many things that have been inside Hell in a Cell over the past number of years. You think about, the end of era Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and The Undertaker, where Shawn as the referee at WrestleMania 28 in Miami at the Sundome Stadium. The Sunlight Stadium, sorry. But it's pretty crazy. It's pretty surreal. That match was special in itself because that was like the last. It was supposed to be the last time. Was the last time? Of course, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker got in the ring again many years later, but that wasn't the last time. But it was pretty cool to like have the Undertaker win, go 20-0, and have all three legends pose on stage together. That to me was a proper wrestling moment that could never be seen again. After that, and it was crazy. I think the last Hell in a Cell match Undertaker competed in was the one against Lesnar at Hell in a Cell 2015. And I think that event huh, was in LA. Yeah, Los Angeles at the Staples Center. And that's pretty crazy. Taking the beat to Shell Lesnar that night, but Lesnar still find a way to win with the F5 on the exposed wooden part of the ring and get the 1, 2, 3. So the sucks the Undertaker had lost the first Hell in a Cell match and lost his last Hell in a Cell match. But things happen, you know. But I gotta admit, none of these Hell in a Cell matches the Undertaker have been in. Of course, be my favorite Undertaker Brock Lesnar for No Mercy Town too, for the WWE Championship. That to me, I don't know why that would be my favorite Undertaker Hell in a Cell match of all time. That match, I think Brock Lesnar proved that night he was the next big thing. But let me say this now. I said this before in the Undertaker podcast of my episode 1998 through 1999. that the most infamous Hell in a Cell matchup with the Undertaker involved in it would be against Mankind at the 1998 King of the Ring. And the reason I say this because this was a match that really, some people say made Mankind famous, but at the same time, like, was dangerous itself that I think people in the crowd that night couldn't bear to see what else was going to happen in that matchup. And, we got to this point, like, you know, it's crazy. So the Undertaker come out, after Mankind. Mankind, when he came out there with his entrance, he tossed a steel chair on top of the cell. I'm thinking, okay, so he's tossed steel top of the cell. I guess, let's go up there. But little did we know, he wanted to start the match up there. When he saw the Undertaker come down, and then he's on top of the cell, he's telling the Undertaker, come up here. As Undertaker climbs up, these two start beating up each other. And this was pretty scary to say the least, because you had the Undertaker and Mankind walking the top of the cell. Mind you, these guys are 300 plus pounds. Undertaker is about 290 right now, but at the time, Undertaker was a 300 pounder. Over Mankind, well over 300, close to 350. And you see the Hell in a Cell gain weight to part where some of these support tight beams on top of the cell started breaking apart. And you can hear it on TV. I can imagine the fans were there in person hearing it louder, but you can hear on TV like those steel support structures or ties, whatever you want to call it, are snapping off. And it's like, holy shit, the Tony two guys are gonna fall through the cell. This is pretty scary. This is, I think I was about 5 years old at the time watching this matchup, and I'm thinking, holy crap, these guys are gonna fall. These guys are gonna fall. Like, they're gonna fall off or fall through, either way. And I just can't help but think, like, God, let these guys be safe, you know? And it's pretty surreal. Because the next part is, the Undertaker would toss, not throw, but toss Mankind off the cell into the Spanish Announce table 20 feet below. No, actually, no, I think it was about 60 feet, but still, some bigger knocked out the cell, maybe thrown out the cell, but being tossed off like it was nothing. Yeah, and Mick Foley's Mankind's body just smacking that wooden table, concrete floor, and to the point where they had to raise the cell up to get some EMTs all around the ringside to the announce table where Mankind fell through. And of course, getting on a stretcher, and take us climb down the cell before the cell even touches the floor. Do I think that could have killed Mankind? Yes. To the point where Mankind had to spend a couple days in the hospital? Yes. But did I not think that moments later, not even minutes later, but moments later, Mankind would get off with that stretcher, have a big smile on his face, and think he wants to continue the matchup? I was like, I think at that point I realized Mankind was the toughest son of a bitch ever to be in WWE ever. No doubt about it. So Mankind goes back up to South. Mankind, Undertaker follows him. These two would fight. And Undertaker grabs Mankind by the throat. Mind you, got a steel chair out there. And Undertaker would choke slam Mankind through one part of the cell with the chair coming down, and Mankind falls to the middle of the ring. And I guess I didn't notice at first, but I watched the documentary on the old Untold part about the Undertaker Mankind Hell in a Cell match. That chair, when it came down, along with Mankind's body, smack in the ring, that chair shot got Mankind in the mouth, knocked one of his teeth out, and somehow his teeth got stuck up his nose. I'm like, holy shit. And it's just crazy. And you hear JR in the background, will somebody stop the damn match? Like, enough is enough. Like, this went to the point where, yeah, this shit has got to be real. There's nothing, you know, F word about this matchup. So it's just pretty surreal. It really is. I'm thinking, okay, this match got to be over now. Mankind cannot take. He's been thrown off. He's been tossed off the cell. He's been thrown through the cell into the middle of the ring, and like, holy shit, his teeth was one of his teeth was knocked out. Like, this has got to stop. This was It's kind of scary to the point it scared me a little bit just to see Mankind's body just uh it was just surreal. It really was. The Undertaker comes back into the ring, and they go, okay, match is over. Officials coming in to check on Mankind. No, Undertaker starts beating up on officials, tossed out the ring. He even chokeslam official at the time, Terry Funk, out of his shoes. And I'm like, wow, okay. It's pretty crazy. There was a point in this matchup where Mankind leaned his body against the bottom turnbuckle, with a big smile on his face. He is mouth all bloody. You see his actual tooth in his hair, and Mankind's just smiling. Like he enjoyed this match so much to the point where I was like, wow, this guy's sick. You know? Oh man, this could continue matchup. Mankind would try to fight back here, get some upholds on the Undertaker here, until this next part would really see us have a new weapon reintroduced in this Hell in a Cell matchup here. For the first time, we saw thumbtacks, thousands of them all over the ring, in one part, at least one part of the ring. So we'll take that. I think them slam those attacks. But no, Undertaker picks up Mankind on his back when Mankind has the Mandible Claw applied to him, and Undertaker backdrops Mankind into the attacks here. Mankind's just rolling around in them, screaming in pain. Undertaker goes for the for a choke slam. He choke slams Mankind back into the sacks, making sure they really sticking them inside really good. And it's just so surreal. I'm like, what the hell are we watching? You know? The Undertaker would then go for the tombstone power driver. His set gets the 1, 2, 3, and the Undertaker's victorious in this matchup. But what does this say at least for Mankind after the match? Of course, Mankind probably had to get stitches, get those thumbtacks out of his back, and just recuperate. You know. So yeah, I gotta admit, like the Undertaker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell match will be the most infamous, not only the infamous Hell in a Cell match in today's history, but the infamous match ever in WWE's history, and it's just so surreal. It really was. And no, maybe later on today, I might even watch the match again just to see how brutal it was. You know, that's how brutal that match was. But it was not always about casket matches or Hell in a Cell matches that would really solve, certain rivalries. Certain rivalries really needed to be taken to the next level. And for the Undertaker, since he's nicknamed the Deadman, we'll just see how his Deadman characteristics will work well for his next stipulated matchup here. We'll be right back. We'll be right back after I talk about this advertisement from Anchor.fm. All right, welcome back to a special full episode of Gotta Have Hard Wrestling by your truly Jamal Honus. And this episode, we're talking about The Undertaker's greatest and most dominant specialty matches ever in his career as a tribute to him on his 56th birthday. It is so amazing. You know, we talked about the dreaded castle match and the infamous Hell in a Cell matches with The Undertaker involved, of course. But I can definitely say that over the years, I've never seen anything like this next match I'm going to talk about, well, The Undertaker's specialty, the Buried Alive match. It's also right. I've seen every and remember every Buried Alive match that's happened in WWE's history. And it's pretty surreal how we got to this point. First off, I want to say, like, out of anything that The Undertaker Mankind has ever competed in, even for what's that infamous house match from the King of the Ring 1998. But before that house match happened, almost 2 years prior, they battled in the first ever Buried Alive matchup at In Your House Buried Alive, October 20th, 1996. I gotta admit, this event, oh man, the whole look, the gimmick, the match type, you can see like the stage is like literally a graveyard gate and then a burial ground for the Undertaker Mankind Buried Alive matchup. And like I said, it doesn't get no better than this. I like scary stuff. So just seeing an actual gravesite at that event, knowing that somebody's gonna be buried alive in it, is actually pretty damn cool. I gotta admit, it's like probably one of the coolest things you would ever see. You know. So we get the Brethren matchup here. Of course, we have Mankind coming out first, the Undertaker, and you thought their matches at SummerSlam, King of the Ring would be brutal, and even two went together, went off, battled each other, when Mankind challenged Shawn Michaels for the championship at Any House Mind Games. This would be so surreal to the point where, like, wow, one of these are going to be buried alive. One of these men are going to be buried alive and possibly not come back. That wasn't the case whatsoever. We get here, and then we get to the buried alive matchup. Undertaker and Mankind beating the holy crap at each other. Brutality everywhere. I think one time, Mankind's body struck the concrete floor in his matchup against the Undertaker, and it's just pretty surreal. It really is. Nick Undertaker bashing my head of steel steps, even with a chair. And Undertaker drops a leg drop on Mankind with the chair put right on his face and his neck area. And man, this is really brutal. But the thing is, what came after what had happened when I guess the Undertaker and Mankind reached the top of that grave? You see the Undertaker having the mandible claw applied to him. The Undertaker countered to chokeslam and chokeslams Mankind into the grave. And this is where the scary part comes in. I didn't know that they were gonna have all these special effects. As Undertaker's buried alive Mankind, he would. Well, I guess not he. But I guess the lights and the thunder starts happening. The lightning and the thunder. You see the lights flickering, and you hear the crowd chanting, "Rest in peace, rest in peace." And it's just so surreal, to the point where I think it's really buried alive Mankind, all this dirt, and you know, I think to a point one time, I think you couldn't even see Mankind's body. I think you can see maybe his back and his neck area, but his legs and his arms and hands like totally buried in that dirt. And then this is where we saw the debut of this new superstar called the Executioner. I never knew who the hell was the guy underneath the Executioner outfit and the mask, but yeah, And you see Paul Bear saying, dig him up. And then, of course, they dig him up. And they put the Undertaker in the grave, trying to bury him. You hear the lightning hit thunder in the background. And, of course, this is where it gets strange. You had superstars like Goldust, Justin Hart Bradshaw, which is JBL, of course, Goldust, and I think um, someone else came out there, too. Yeah, Crush, that helped Mankind and Paul Bear bail out the Undertaker. I'm thinking, okay, what the hell's going on? It's like a repeat of the Undertaker Yokozuna casting match. Like these guys really want to see the Undertaker buried alive. Like it's crazy. I think to the point where we couldn't see Undertaker's body. All Undertaker's body was completely engulfed in dirt, and they're still burying him alive. And the match is over. Technically, Undertaker had already won because he was the first one to bury alive Mankind, even though it wasn't completely buried. But so Undertaker won the match. But it's like, damn, Undertaker's like the real star loser right now, being buried alive by like six guys. It's not fair. It's really not. And to the point where it stops, it's still very alive. The Undertaker with that dirt, and then the Thunder and Lightning starts acting up again to the point where Bradshaw, Goldust, Triple H, and Crush are out of there, and Mankind and Executioner are still burying him alive. And you see Mankind jam that shovel in the front part of that grave, the upper front part where that tombstone is, and of course, they get out the gravesite, admiring their handiwork. And then out of nowhere, you see a lightning bolt struck that tombstone, struck that gravesite. The Undertaker's hair just appears out of nowhere. And then you hear Mr. Man, who he's been on commentary that time, saying, "The Undertaker's alive! The Undertaker lives! He is not done yet." And like, that was probably one of the coolest ways to ever close a pay-per-view event. Because you never know what was going to happen to The Undertaker. Obviously, he's alive. You see his hand with the purple glove come out the grave. And I'm like, oh shit, that is cool. As a fan, I could not wait for to see what's going to be next in the Undertaker Mankind rivalry. Of course, they'll bat out the Survivor Series. The Undertaker wins, and you know. But yeah, I was like, damn, that first round, that has to be one of the best ones. But until like some rivalries intensify, you're gonna need that type of matchup. And this is no different for the Austin Undertaker rivalry in 1998. Because out of everything these two have done to each other, our matches, I think one of the best matches had to be from SummerSlam '98, that Highway to Hell for the WWE Championship at the time. So, Austin won his championship back. He got screwed in the Survivor Series. Undertaker has recently formed the new Ministry of Darkness a month prior because Undertaker got screwed by Austin at Judgment Day in '98 in Chicago. So, in order for Austin to get that title shot, he would have to win a Royal Rumble matchup. But for him to qualify for a Royal Rumble match, he would have to face the Undertaker, ordered by Mr. Man at In Your House Rock Bottom in British Columbia, Vancouver, in Canada, of course. He would have to beat the Undertaker in a buried alive matchup. The Undertaker specialty. I'm thinking, okay, this odds are obviously stacked against Austin. How would he win this matchup? You know. So we get to Rock Bottom, the WF Rock Bottom in your house in December in Vancouver, BC. So the matchup in Undertaker comes out here first. I don't know why, but if you go back and listen to the entrance, I think this entrance by the Undertaker, that song, I think this is like the Ministry first version of the entrance. I think the entrance is probably by far one of the best theme songs he's ever had in his career. It's pretty cool. I don't know why. I just love this theme song. Like I can listen to this theme song over and over again if he comes out. So you have him come out first. Austin comes out next here. And once these two start fighting in the entranceway, and this is pretty brutal. It wasn't. I don't think it wasn't as brutal as the Undertaker Mankind one, but it was somewhat brutal. Fast forward throughout this, we get to the end of the matchup here, and you will see that Austin and Undertaker battle top of the grave. The Undertaker tried to choke out Austin, and then I don't know. I think it was Austin tried to choke out the Undertaker with that shovel, and the Undertaker hits Austin with that gas can there, you know, and then the Undertaker going for a tombstone Austin. Austin counters it, hits a stunner. Undertaker falls in the grave, and as he's proceeding to bury the Undertaker alive, we see Paul Bearer try to get involved. Austin chains off Paul Bearer in the back. Undertaker just gets out of the grave. He is on the side of his gravesite with these slanted parts with the dirt. With the shovel, I'm thinking he's going to ambush Austin when he comes back here. But out of nowhere, we see a fire explosion inside the grave. I'm like, what the fuck? What's happening now? So we see Kane coming out the grave. I'm like, how the hell did Kane get inside that grave? That's what was the most freakiest part I've ever seen. So I guess Kane wants to bring the Undertaker for what happened in the Survivor Series the month prior in that Deadly Games tournament. So Undertaker came meet hell of each other. Well, it looked like Undertaker was about to tombstone King until we see Austin with that payloader, which usually those things are full of dirt, preloaded with dirt already. Kane counters, and Kane tombstones the Undertaker, throws him inside the grave. Austin with that payloader, with all that dirt on top, dumps all the dirt in the Undertaker, and is declared the winner of the Buried Life matchup. That was before Austin qualifies for a Rumble matchup, and a chance to win the Rumble, go to WrestleMania, fight for the championship. That was a pretty cool match, especially the last part where Austin's Bill celebration and pouring some of that beer as a toast to the Undertaker, even though Undertaker's buried alive. Like that was pretty surreal. I think once the Undertaker until the 1991 matchup, he made an appearance and used Mabel, the former known King Mabel, now known as Vincera, as a sacrifice, as a certain sacrifice. So but damn, that was pretty crazy. That was, and to the point where I was like, oh, okay. Melee match is now a severe thing in that we had Undertaker's one with Mankind, one with Austin, of course. And this was the weird one. The next melee match that happened was a tag team melee matchup on, I think, was it the third or fourth? I think it was the third episode of SmackDown that happened at the time. It's pretty weird. Yeah, Undertaker and Big Show who had won the tag team champs at SummerSlam for Kane and Spock, lost it a week and a day later to the Rock and Stock Connection that were formed on the August 30th episode when they were all from Boston, Massachusetts that night. And I guess Undertaker and Big Show wanted to be tag champs again, so he challenged the Rock and Stock Connection to a match, a tag team match with very live implications on it. I'm like, wow, okay. You have a very live matchup, but it's a tag team match. And who would ever expect that? You would have a very live match for the tag team championship, but it happened. It definitely did happen. This match would be all out of control because at one point you see Undertaker and The Rock fighting in the back, and then that leaves Big Show and Mankind. And I think this was one of the severe things that happened in this matchup. You see Big Show launch Mankind off the stage where they had that old SmackDown set into the Baylor match, and you hear Mankind's 300-pound body just smack that dirt and that grass and dirt, that gravesite, like he was like being thrown into a wall. That's how loud a lot of a thud Mankind's body smacked that gravesite, and he would land right inside the gravesite. I'm like, wow, they shot really throw it. Yeah, hey, but damn, Mankind probably almost broke everyone's body because of that. And of course, Big Show tries to bury Mankind alive, unsuccessful. Mankind finds the mandible claw on the Big Show, and of course, you see Undertaker and The Rock battling backstage. Yeah, Triple H comes out of nowhere, trying to disrupt it. You see China trying to come out and lay waste to no. You see Kane come out and try to lay waste to Triple H, try to help out The Rock, feed him off the Undertaker. And then you see China come out of nowhere with that chair shot that came in the back, and Kane has no effect on him, chasing China further out. And I don't know if Triple H is going to get, but the Undertaker come back out here and helps Big Show bury Mankind alive. Big Show and Undertaker win the match. That's Undertaker's second victory side buried alive. Big Show's first with three buried alive match. At least Big Show can say and score he's won a buried alive matchup, even if it was a tag team style. And I don't think that match is really the point to focus on the tag team championships. I think that was more of a focus on Triple H because even though Big Show continued to bury Mankind alive, Triple H going with nowhere with the sledgehammer knocks out Big Show from behind. And mind you, Triple H had got the news earlier that night they was going to defend the championship against five of the superstars in that six-match challenge for Unforgiven, that pay-per-view that month, September '99, and it's pretty surreal because yeah, Austin, we had a ambulance backed up. But one thing is for the Big Show, Mankind, anybody that's knocked out. Austin comes out of this, so be waiting on Triple H. Starter pits Triple H inside the ambulance, goes outside there. I think it was this Albany, New York. Because I don't know why every time you see somebody get ran over or a car accident, it was always having Albany. I don't know. It's like the number one place. So Austin sets it up in the back there and uses a semi truck and bashes that ambulance in so damn hard. I don't know how somebody survived that, but he did. It's really severe. But damn, it's like all these Bray Wyatt matches, and it's like if you have one, it gets more brutal than the other one. You know, it really does. So I like to also bring up probably two more Bray Wyatt matches because those total five that happened to WWE so far. The Kane and Taker one, I didn't like from bragging rights 2010 just because Nexus got involved and it's like, okay, Kane won, I take a Bray Live. It wasn't really that special. To me, it was kind of like mediocre a little bit. But this next one here will be the Undertaker's last one. First and last as a motorcycle competitor, as the American Badass gimmick, or Big Evil if you want to call it that. It'll be Undertaker versus, yes, Mr. McMahon at the 2003 Survivor Series in Dallas, Texas that night. And it's so surreal. Like you never ever thought you hit a worse Mr. Man versus the Undertaker in your paradigm matchup at Survivor Series. Like that actually happened? Yes, it did happen. Oh man. I remember everything from this matchup here. Like I believe the first shot by the Undertaker that split open Mr. Man so damn badly. I think that's probably gotta be the most hardest right hand shots Undertaker's ever laid out Mr. Man in. The point where he started bleeding instantly, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I think it's the first time I've ever seen a match where somebody bleeds within the first 30 seconds. Oh man, I think Mr. Man definitely got his ass kicked that night too, his ass handed to him for everything he tried to do for the Undertaker, you know, over the past month or two. So it's pretty surreal. And to a point, one time, Undertaker was choking out Mr. Man with a cable cord outside the ring and bashed his head with a TV monitor from the announce table. And I think probably one of the infamous parts here, this matchup here, is when this same thing happened back in '98 when Undertaker and Kane tried to front Mr. Man before getting screwed after Breakdown '98, September '98. So Undertaker smashes Mr. Man's leg, ankle to the steel steps. So I take a point that Grace like, okay, time to barely Mr. Man live. This would be probably the fastest barely match ever. Of course, Mr. Man tries to come back with a low blow, a dirt to the eyes, a shovel shot. The Undertaker inside the grave. Of course, Mr. Man is trying to get that shovel out because I think that was the only shovel in the matchup to use to bury him alive. I'm like, you got a payloader. You got a two times bigger payloader than Austin at Rock Bottom '98. Mr. Man could just come up there and just dump all that dirt and then over. Of course, Mr. Man gets sucked back then by the Undertaker. Undertaker tries to kind of climb that payloader. Explosion again happens out of nowhere. You see Kane, mind you, this is not the same Kane. This is the unmasked Kane from early that year. Beats down the Undertaker into the Brady Life site. Mr. Man climbs up the payloader, tries to get inside, and Mr. Man uses the payloader, turns it off, and will proceed to bury Undertaker alive. Mr. Man can say in his career he's defeated the Undertaker in a Brady Life matchup. Probably the most biggest match of his career, you know, and it's just so surreal. Like whoever thought the Mr. Man would beat the Undertaker in a Brady Light matchup at Survivor Series? Yes, again, folks, it did happen. You know, that's how special that was. To a certain point. And like, damn, Kane really screwed his buddy Undertaker out of that Brady Light matchup. It's surreal. It really is. Oh man. Well, We'll talk about more Celtics wrestling matches when we get back and listen to this advertisement from Anchor.fm. Alrighty, welcome back to this special full episode of God Apart Wrestling by yours truly, Jamal Honus. And we're going to talk about the Undertaker specialty matches and his greatest dominant victories in them. And, it's all about more than just Hell in a Cell, casket match, or front matches Undertaker's competed in his career. He's competed in a lot of other types of matches. I mean, whether it's like a traditional Inferno match or a steel cage match, you know, or even Punjab prison match. I was actually orchestrated by Great Khali and John Six. Either way, like Undertaker has been in a lot of specialty matches over the past number of years, in which he has made famous in. And there's also a lot of good matches where Undertaker's competed in for the first time and has come out the victor. Such as one of my favorites, the Elimination Chamber matchup. The Undertaker's first Elimination Chamber match was No Way Out Challenge in Las Vegas, where it came down to him Batista, and he won the match. And Undertaker got the title shot against Edge, the reigning defending World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 24 that year. And it's just pretty surreal, you know? It really is. And you could never, you know, to the point where Undertaker, anytime he's competed in some match, he just turns up the heat, and it's really good. Speaking of turning up the heat, Undertaker has competed in two Inferno matches, in which both of them has been against his brother Kane, in which he has won both of them as well. Undertaker, a probably infamous move during the first Inferno match against Kane in Unforgiven 1978 in Greensboro, North Carolina, is where he flew over the top rope with the flames going high in the air and coming down on Kane and Vader that night. And he did set, well, he kicked Kane in the face and then set his own arm on fire. You know, that was pretty surreal itself too. So it's like a little bit less. And don't ever piss off the Deadman when it comes to these type of matches. Because most times he will find a way to win. So it's just pretty cool. It really is. I would have to admit, every time Ante competes in a matchup, it's really like badass. It really is. And when it comes to Undertaker, you know, you would think that over the years, Undertaker has not competed in these types of matches, but he has. Let's take a look at this one, for instance. One of my favorites, and this is back in the mid '60s. I said mid '60s. Sorry for fucking up here. The mid '90s, specifically at SummerSlam, known the Undertaker Mankind rivalry. These two competed in the first ever Boiler Room Brawl match, and which to me, I think out of any type of match in the career, this has to be one of the most brutal hard fought matches. Because a lot of things happen in matchup that you wouldn't believe. You see steam that was tossed on Mankind, you see a wooden ladder, crates, boxes, anything that Mankind didn't get their hands on that night in that boiler room in Cleveland, Ohio at SummerSlam, which would be very infamous to the point where they both left the boiler room, but normally you would have to leave the boiler room to match. No, in this one you have to leave the boiler room, get to the ring, and recover the urn by Paul Bearer, who's standing in the middle of the ring. And we see Mankind trying to spill a pot of coffee onto the Undertaker, and these two proceed to get to the ring. And as they get to the ropes, the ring apron, the Undertaker flings Mankind off, and Mankind's body just smacked that concrete. And I'm like, oh, this is so surreal. Why are these two men doing to each other? Like, oh man, this has to stop. But I want to see keep going. What more can Undertaker and Mankind do to each other? They literally have pit each other through so much hell in that matchup or in that whole rivalry, mind you, to the point where they'll still do it again. You know. But this was a turning point in that matchup. This is something I never thought was going to happen. This was a big swerve on all of us. When the Undertaker tries to receive the arm for Paul Bearer, then on his traditional one knee, you know, per, per, you know, praying for Paul Bearer, and like when Paul Bearer is about to give the Undertaker the arm, he refuses to turn back around. And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? Why is Paul Bearer not giving his man the Undertaker the arm? Bianca comes back to the ring with Mandible Claw. Paul Bear's just standing there looking on and laughing. and he hands Mankind to earn, making Mankind the first ever winner of the Boiler Room Brawl, defeating the Undertaker that night. Yeah, it's so surreal. Like I couldn't not believe Undertaker for the first time in his career, and I think the Undertaker and Paul Bear have been together for what, 6 years at that point. Just to see Paul Bear do the Undertaker like that, turn his back on literally, and helping Mankind, the arch nemesis, win the match. And I'm thinking like, wow, this is really surreal. I never expected this to happen. This was, you know, it's pretty crazy. It really was. Like I could not believe like this had happened. You know, and I'm like, damn. I guess sometimes when you just want to go a different way, you go a different way. You know, so yeah, it's pretty. It is really surreal. It is. I would never believe it. You know, but it's pretty cool though because not every first time match Undertaker has won, but he would make history as the first time ever in a certain match too. They take the Royal match from this. Go back to the 2007 Royal matchup here, where the Undertaker came out number 30. When it came down to him and Shawn Michaels after eliminating Randy Orton and Edge moments before, the Undertaker would proceed to eliminate Shawn Michaels. If not only win his first Royal match for the first time in his career, but Undertaker made history that night by the first person to win for the number 30 spot. To the point that I think had been 19 Royal Rumbles at that point. No, 20. Yeah, there have been 20 Rumbles. And if Undertaker won the 24 Rumble matchup, and to win for the number 30 spot, that was pretty history making itself that night in San Antonio, Texas. So it's really amazing. It really is. But yeah, a lot of things happened in Undertaker's career, which he's won, and he just comes out really, really good, looking good, and it's just it's just really amazing. It really is. Yeah, but think about it. Undertaker's career has competed in a lot of special matches that you know would never forget again. You know, even the first ever chairs match where him and Batista battled at tables and chairs, 2009 for the World Heavyweight Championship. Batista similarly did win the match that night, but it was due to a low blow, which only way he could win the match that was utilized by no point in match, a steel chair. Taylor had to remind Batista that before stripping him of victory, the Undertaker will connect Batista with the chair shot and two stone power drivers to retain the World Heavyweight Championship that night. And I'm glad because Batista the winner with the low blow that way. That's not really like the annual style of wrestling, So I'm actually glad that night where the Undertaker had won. You know, I mean, don't forget, has also been in ladder matches. You would never think the Undertaker's been in ladder matches. It's happened. As a matter of fact, the Undertaker's first ladder match, which probably is one of the top 10 matches in Monday Night Raw history, took place on the 1st of July in Town 2 when a young, charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy, challenged the Undertaker for the WWE's Undisputed Championship. And I don't know why. This was, I think, to me, out of Undertaker's title run in his career, this is probably one of my favorites because the Undertaker was real badass when the Big Evil Undertaker was the WWE Undisputed Champion. Undertaker was unstoppable. You cannot kick the Undertaker's ass from here to wherever. Yeah, that Undertaker during that time period of the beginning, the very, very beginning of the Rules of Discretion era, with the Undertaker as the champion representing the company. That Undertaker was badass. Like I wish that title prolonged more, you know. So yeah, but the Undertaker had a hell of a challenge. Didn't know the Undertaker was gonna walk out as champion, considering that he's never been in a ladder match. He's facing a very unpredictable superstar in the likes of Jeff Hardy. I think this. I think out of everything Jeff Hardy accomplished in his career before that matchup, whether it was TLC matches, triangle matches, ladder matches in general, Jeff Hardy really had to prove that night that he really belonged in the main event spotlight. And he did. Undertaker did win with the choking off the ladder to Jeff Hardy, but I think to all of us, not only Jeff Hardy did prove that night he belonged in the main event, fighting for big matches like that, but he also got the one thing that most superstars had never ever gotten, even if they battled Undertaker for the first time, and that's going to take respect. That is the key thing you want to get when you're wrestling the Undertaker in WWE is you want that respect, and that's what Jeff Hardy did to earn that night. He didn't win the championship, but he got something that is promptly much bigger than the championship, and that was the Undertaker respect after the ladder match. Crazy match, you know. And think about it. If one day you're gonna compete in a ladder match, you might as well turn it up a notch to compete in a tables ladder chess match. The Undertaker did get that opportunity when he fought against the Rated Superstar Edge, for he vacated World Championship at WWE's One Night Stand Tailgate in New Orleans, Louisiana. That was a brutal matchup. The only thing I did not expect was when the Undertaker was about to win, climb the ladder and get that World Heavyweight Championship. When you see Edge just push the Undertaker through 4 tables inside the ring, and Edge just getting the championship, Edge becoming the new champion, and per stipulation, the Undertaker had to leave the WWE for good. Of course, the Undertaker would come back a couple months later, but it was just so surreal to have that stipulation, you know. So till then, Undertaker never won a TLC matchup, but at least he can say he's been in one, you know. So yeah, it's pretty surreal, you know. I think also another unique match the Undertaker competed in was the Biker Chain match from No Mercy 2003, and that match was unique itself because I think that was the only Biker Chain match that it happened to WWE. It happened between Undertaker and Brock Lesnar at No Mercy 2003 in Baltimore, Maryland that night. And it sucks that Undertaker did get screwed with Mr. McMahon, which led to that Bray Wyatt match we just talked about a while ago with the Undertaker and Mr. McMahon from Survivor Series '03. But, in other words, that was a pretty good matchup, too. It wasn't as good as the Undertaker Brock Lesnar matchup, but it was pretty okay in its right. So, yeah. Pretty decent as far as matches go. So, yeah. But damn, you gotta look back at Undertaker's 30-year career. He competed in a lot of specialty matches that have either made him famous, his opponent famous, or just made famous in general for WWE fans to be talking about for a very, very long time. So think about that, and then you put it in perspective. The Undertaker is kind of almost, I think 90%, maybe 92%, has been in almost every match type in WWE's history. Whether it's big or small, or kind of medium sized too. Cause we get those now and again. But you got to remember this: the Undertaker's dominance over the past 30 years in these specialty type matches has always raised the stakes and raised through that glass ceiling for future stars to try to compete in these types of matches and be successful, just as the Undertaker was when he was in them. And that's put a lid on this episode here, and tune in. We are just about a little over a month away from my YouTube debut, April 28th, Wednesday. It's gonna be surreal. It's gonna be cool. We're gonna have some fun with this. I'm just going all out. I'm just gonna say what I have to say, and we're gonna talk about a lot here. And it's gonna have fun. We're definitely gonna have fun. But for next week's episode, I am just excited about this. And one thing I told my mother about this episode, and she was pretty excited about this too, because next week we're going to talk about Shawn Michaels, the correct Shawn Michaels, but more specifically his comeback from 2002, from the 4-year back injury he's had. We're going to talk about his rivalry against Triple H, his chase for World Heavyweight Championship, his rivalry matches against such as like Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, even the Boss Mr. Man himself, even his rivalry against John Cena, into his last couple of years with battling the Undertaker in his 2 most greatest wrestling matches probably of all time. We're going to talk about all that until his official retirement from WWE. Thank you guys for joining me this episode. And guys, hope you have a good day and have fun. Live it up. It's going to be warm outside. Spring is finally here. Thank you guys for joining me this episode and have a good day, everybody.